Deputy Delgado begins firing 9 rounds of shotgun ammunition at the suspects from the 60-yard distance and through the chain-link fence. Deputy Belaski, who is still under intense fire, discharges 3 rounds of .38 caliber ammunition from his service revolver back at the suspects. The suspects are now in a crossfire, but both Deputy Delgado and Deputy Belaski are 60 yards from them. Belaski is attempting to obtain more ammunition from the front seat area of his unit when he is struck by 1 or 2 rounds from the suspect's rifles. He is struck in the right arm near the elbow and a large vein is severed. He is also struck by several small fragments of rifle bullets on the right shoulder and upper arm area. He begins to bleed profusely. Deputy Belaski broadcasts that he is injured and a noticeable sound of worry is detected in his voice. Deputy Chuck Hill arrives at the scene from a westbound direction on 4th Street, and his unit is immediately hit by rifle fire.
59, we're taking fire now. Turret 59, 10-9. Being fired upon. Turret 59, copy. Riverside Doll units at the location are being fired upon. The unit's been hit.
Deputy Hill turns right and heads north up a private driveway where he parks his unit. He gets out of his unit and sees Deputy Belaski calling for help.
I'm bleeding bad. I got an artery hit. I need help.
The remaining 4 gunmen run from the getaway van to a yellow Ford pickup truck that was stopped for a red light in the northbound number 1 lane of Hamner at 4th Street. The driver of the pickup, seeing the gunman run toward him, abandons the vehicle with the engine running and goes across the street to Carl's Jr. for safety. Deputy Hill, at the same time, leaves his position by the house and decides to go to Deputy Belaski's aid. Belaski makes another radio broadcast.
350, the suspects are stranded, their vehicle's disabled, at Hamner and Ford. For all help, I need an ambulance, I'm bleeding badly. Affirmative, ambulance en route. Won't they go on anybody?
Deputy Hill runs across 4th Street into the open and safely reaches Deputy Belaski. He takes Belaski's handgun and reloads it for him. 3 live rounds are dropped onto the ground. Hill also puts his hand over Belaski's wounded arm to try and stop the bleeding. He then escorts Belaski to a group of trees on the south side of 4th Street where a measure of cover is provided. Deputy Hill leaves Deputy Belaski by the trees, then runs north across 4th Street again to get to his own unit. Hill safely gets to his unit, whereby he drives back to Belaski's position and picks him up. Hill then transports Belaski to Corona Community Hospital. He leaves eastbound on 4th, avoiding the suspect. Deputy Delgado is now the only deputy remaining at the scene. He continues to fire at the gunman, but his distance is so great that it's ineffective. The remaining 4 gunmen now reach the yellow Ford pickup that was abandoned in the northbound number 1 lane of Hamner, south of 4th. Suspect Chris Harvin gets into the driver's seat. Suspect Manny Delgado gets into the passenger seat, armed now with the HK-93. Suspect George Smith, armed with his HK-91, along with suspect Russell Harvin, armed with his short-stock AR-15, get into the back of the pickup. They load several hundred rounds of ammunition into the truck along with a few hand grenades and begin to leave the scene. The suspects drive northbound on Hamner in the southbound lanes of traffic. Deputy Delgado, knowing that they're coming his way, crawls underneath his unit for safety as the gunmen approach. When the getaway pickup truck reaches the site of Deputy Delgado's unit, the gunmen fire a fusillade of rounds at his unit. The gunmen continue northbound on Hamner without having wounded Deputy Delgado by rifle fire. Delgado gets to his unit radio and makes a series of radio broadcasts. In all of the confusion, Deputy Delgado is in the mistaken belief that the suspects have split up and taken hostages with them in the getaway pickup truck.
51, 3 suspects fled. A yellow pickup north on Hamner. They got 2 hostages. They left the area on that one that line right now is at 21. Riverside Doll, yellow pickup has fled with 2 hostages northbound on Hamner. The suspects wore a lot of, looks like green field jackets and such.
The total time from when the first report of the robbery was broadcast until the time the suspects fled the area in the stolen pickup truck was 4 minutes. Left at the scene is the getaway van with Mr. Harala still tied up but unharmed inside. Suspect Belisario Delgado ceases to breathe due to his paralysis from being struck in the head by a shotgun pellet and dies of his injuries. Deputy Belaski's unit, still at the scene, was completely destroyed and torn apart by gunfire. The unit can never be used again. A total of 42 bullet holes were located in Deputy Belaski's unit. It's unknown how many total rounds were fired at Deputy Belaski's unit, as all of the glass windows were shot out with large gaping holes. Numerous ricochet marks from rifle fire were all around his unit. Within minutes after the robbery took place, countless units from the Riverside Sheriff's Department, Corona Police Department, Riverside Police Department, and California Highway Patrol descend on the scene. Costa Mesa Police Helicopter Eagle, which was on its way from Rialto Airport back to Costa Mesa, came across the incident flying over Norco. The crew took these aerial photos of the scene. Found inside the van after the situation was considered stabilized was the $20,000 in cash taken during the robbery. Also found was an AR-15, along with the homemade grenades and launchers. Here they are after removal from the van. These are recovered incendiary devices. And here sits the driver of the now getaway pickup after it was stolen. The now 4 remaining gunmen started to flee the city of Norco by driving straight northbound on Hamner out of the city. The yellow pickup truck being driven by Chris Harvin became involved in 2 hit-and-run traffic collisions in the attempt to flee. The pickup ran red light traffic signals at both the intersections of Hamner and 5th and Hamner and 6th, striking a car at each location. These are actual photos of the getaway pickup truck. Deputy Darrell Reed in Unit 3 Edward 22 was responding to the city of Norco to intercept the suspects. He was driving southbound on Hamner at about Taft Street when he encountered the pickup truck. The suspects fired at him from the back of the pickup and from the cab. Deputy Reed was struck by 1 bullet in the back of his left knee. The air traffic was very crowded, with several units trying to talk at once.
Hamner and Flashman. Hit the leg! Where are they going? Quit yelling. Calm down. Which way are they going? Got the lane blocked over here at Hamner and Lemon. Shoot from the back of the truck. I'm heading for the hospital. 251-10-9, your traffic. He was headed for the hospital. 259. I've been rolling Belaski to the hospital also. 259, copy. 321, can you advise the location of the truck? I'm at Hamner and Laminite at this time. Last seen heading northbound.
The suspects drive past Deputy Reed and their own personal cars with stolen license plates parked across the street on Hamner. One car was an AMC Ambassador owned by Russell Harvin. The other car, a Chevy Camaro, was owned by Chris Harvin. In the trunk of the Camaro was an assortment of extra equipment they might need. An H&H 375 Magnum rifle, large enough to be used as an elephant gun, was in the trunk of the Camaro. There was extra ammunition and camping equipment. The suspects drove northbound on Hamner out of the city of Norco and then into the community of Miraloma. The suspects turned eastbound onto Schleichman Avenue, a winding street. Deputy Doug Borden, driving in the opposite direction to that of the suspects, encountered the pickup in front of a small dairy farm. The suspects fired on Deputy Borden but missed his unit altogether. Borden, however, lost control of his unit and crashed into the fence of the dairy. Borden was not hurt. He did make a brief radio broadcast.
The vehicle is heading on Schleichman towards Adelanda. Units at Hamner and Limonite. Vehicle is on Schleichman towards Adelanda. Yep. 312, they're heading on Schleichman and been hit by fire. Units at Hamner and Limonite, they have had fire on them at Schleichman heading towards Adelanda. 15, is that Holmes and 65th? 10-4. 310. There were 310. Looks like an orange travel hall with cabinets on the side. There's several subjects in the back firing. Riverside doll, it appears to be an orange travel hall with cabinets on the side. Suspects are in the back of the vehicle firing up on the units.
Moments after the suspects passed Deputy Borden, they encountered Deputy Rolfe Parks at Holmes and Wineville in a residential area of Miraloma. The suspects fire at Deputy Parks, and he is grazed on the top of his head by a single bullet. He is showered by flying glass, which strikes him in the face and arms. This is the rear of Deputy Parks' unit. Deputy Parks, even though struck by numerous bullets, was still able to use his unit. He waited for the suspects to pass by him and stop shooting. Parks makes a U-turn and follows the suspects, who are now several blocks away. Immediately, he hears the sounds of bullets hitting the ground around his unit. He realizes that the suspects have high-powered rifles because of the distance the suspects are shooting from. He makes a radio broadcast.
The vehicle, they have fired on us. Yeah, I'm right behind you. They're 20 out where they are. I'm right behind them. They got high-powered rifles. I can wait. We're 20 and we're 21. Go to Channel 3. They've got high-powered rifles. Holmes and Etowanda. A copy. 221 right behind you. 250. Guys, start taking cover. Let's wait. Get together. Copy. Etowanda. This unit has been hit. The deputy is okay. Is it Holmes and Etowanda? Is Holmes and Etowanda. Suspects held up. 10-4. I'm at Etowanda and Limonite at this time. Get your shotgun out immediately. They are firing several rounds, numerous rounds. 10-4. Get your running on the air. The orange truck in front of me going towards Etowanda. That's the vehicle.
The suspect pickup turns northbound onto Etowanda from Holmes and encounters 3 Riverside Sheriff units who have just arrived in this area. Deputy Parks is still pursuing the suspects, and the Riverside Police helicopter Baker 1 is also present. Deputy Herman Brown was driving southbound on Etowanda in front of a supermarket where several groups of shoppers are present. The suspects fire upon Deputy Brown, striking his unit with rounds. He is struck by several fragments of a bullet in the left lower leg. The suspects continue northbound on Etowanda a few more yards and encounter Deputies Wayne McDaniels and David Madden at the intersection of Limonite and Etowanda. The suspects fire on the 2 deputies and strike Deputy McDaniels in the right shoulder with 1 bullet. Deputy Madden is unhurt. Deputies Brown and McDaniels drop out of the pursuit due to their injuries. Deputy Madden continues in the pursuit. There was so much intense gunfire coming from the suspects' assault rifles that it sounded like automatic weapons were present. Listen to the radio broadcast.
Get past them. All right. All right. Good level. We got him at Etowanda and Limonite. Still firing. Down. 10-9, you're 10-20. They're northbound Etowanda, 63rd. The deputy down Etowanda and 63rd. Copy, Etowanda and 63rd. They have automatic weapons. Riverside to responding units. Suspects have automatic weapons. Mr. Way, you got them? Yeah, no other units needed. 4th and Hamner. Edward 310, copy. No other units needed. 4th and Hamner. 10-4, you've got them all the way. We're going to have to lay back because the amount of rounds are firing at us. 311. 211. Get him out the hospital, pick around shoulder. 211, copy.
The suspects continue northbound on Etowanda and are pursued by Deputies Parks and Madden along with California Highway Patrol Officer Ernest. As the pursuit continued through several residential streets in Miraloma, Deputy Parks' unit is disabled by rifle fire, but he is picked up by Deputy Frank Chisholm in his unit.
13, the suspect vehicle is eastbound 54th from Etowanda. Eastbound 54th from Etowanda. 10-4. Head to Belgrade. You're going to Belgrade. That's a dead end. There's no wreck. You're northbound on Tross. 4, we're going down to Belgrade. And Baker 1, they just turned right. They're eastbound again. Eastbound at this time. 2 Edward 12 on Etowanda. Edward 20, Riverside. They turned eastbound at the Circle K there off of Tross. They're northbound. Go, 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 go. And off of that. Northbound, go. Northbound at this time. Northbound, Marlette. You got a flat tire, Rolf? I got a flat one? Pull it over him. Shotgun, come on.
Deputy Madden and Officer Ernest continue to pursue the suspects northbound on Marlatt Street.